Hey everyone, today I'm talking about the metaphysical side of INFJ personality types and INFP personality types. I've gotten a lot of requests to do a video like this. Someone will email me and say, hey, can you talk about the metaphysical side of the INF personality type? Because it's such a thing for me personally. That's what people always say in their messages. It's a thing for me personally. I've always been drawn to this. I've always had a really strong interest in anything metaphysical, and I wonder if it's tied to my personality type. I do think there is a very strong link between INFJ personality types and INFP personality types and the metaphysical side of life. And I think this has to do with the fact that we are highly intuitive. So when you're highly intuitive, the way I describe it is that you see everything interconnected in one big web, and you see the reality behind the reality. So you see the reality of the everyday ordinary world, but you see beyond that. And that might happen when you're talking to someone. You might see beyond their surface appearance or beyond their surface mannerisms. You see into them, into their psychology, into their heart, into their true motivations. You might see it in relationships between people, in dynamics between groups of people, like at your workplace, for instance, right? So there's the surface level of what's going on, but you see behind that. You might see it in the collective or in the world at large. You see these deeper patterns going on behind the day-to-day drama of our everyday life. And I think that's one of the reasons that we tend to be drawn to the metaphysical side of things, because when we start getting into metaphysics and we start exploring topics that are labeled metaphysical, we start understanding a little bit more of the meaning that we see in these deeper patterns, the meaning that we see in the reality behind the reality. The other big reason I think we're drawn to the metaphysical side of life is because we are intuitive, which means we are right-brained sorts of people. Whenever I talk about right brain versus left brain, I will always get someone in a class who will say, well, you know, research is being done these days, and it looks like it's not such a duality, right? Like everybody uses both sides of their brain, and everybody uses them in different ways at different times. So it's not that someone is only a left brain thinker or only a right brain thinker. And I totally get that, and I agree. Every single person is an individual, and I think we all have a unique balance of how we use the different sides of our brain or the different parts of our brain. I use the terms right brain and left brain because it's a really easy way to differentiate between two different types of people. And INF people do tend to fall into the category of what we would think of as right-brained sorts of people. So we are intuitive. We connect very deeply with symbolism and metaphor and poetry, art and beauty and color, creativity, the intangible, the abstract. We are very drawn to those things, and we connect very deeply with those traits and with those things as they show up in life. Whereas left brain people tend to connect a little bit better with logic and linear thinking and things being very straightforward and direct. Things being more mental than emotional. Right brain people tend to be more connected to their emotion and more emotionally expressive, even if we are introverts and we are private people. On the inside, we tend to be very emotionally expressive with ourselves, and that is definitely true of INFJ personality types and INFP personality types. So I think that's another reason why we are so drawn to the metaphysical side of life, because in everyday society, in our mainstream society, we don't get a whole lot of the right brain stuff we need to thrive. We don't get a whole lot of the right brain stuff we need to nourish us and to grow. In our schools, in our workplaces, the right brain side of life is not, it's not encouraged as much as the left brain side. I do think the left brain side is important. I do think we need math and science and logic, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, especially today, in our world that's very driven by technology, and there's a very strong emphasis and value placed on science and technology. You will see in schools there's a big emphasis on math and science and mechanics, right? Like all the STEM stuff. And the arts tend to get left out. Art and poetry and painting and the emotions, that side does tend to be undervalued and left out. And for INFJs and INFPs, it's really a tragedy because we need those things. Most of our world sees those things as a luxury. They're not a luxury for us. We are creatively gifted individuals, and we usually start out as creatively gifted kids. And so we really need art and poetry and metaphor and symbolism and beauty and painting and emotion and that whole right brain side of life. So getting into metaphysical stuff, that's kind of where we can get our fix. That's where we can get a good dose of that nourishment we need when we start looking at how everything links up together, how energy works, how the energy of spirituality, right? And alternative spirituality, alternative viewpoints, right? Metaphysics can cover a wide area of things nowadays. It's also known as woo-woo stuff a lot of the time in our culture, right? It's stuff that maybe we are just finding out is real, or maybe science cannot yet prove it's real. So a lot of people will write it off or dismiss it and say, there's no proof, or I'll believe it when I see it. Again, a very left brain approach. INFJ personality types and INFP personality types tend to work in the opposite way. Instead of saying, I'll see it I'll believe it when I see it, we more say, I believe it, so I see it. That's the way we approach life. We really have a deep-rooted faith in the reality, behind the reality, even if other people can't see it, because much of the time we've experienced it for ourselves through our highly intuitive nature. So from a young age, we are drawn to that woo-woo side of life, magic, the supernatural, powers of the mind, powers of the spirit, life design, right? Manifestation, having a life blueprint. We're very into our life purpose, our life calling, our life path. Why are we here? What is the meaning behind everything? What is the pattern? And we usually keep this stuff hidden, and we feel weird about it because, again, we live in a society that does not recognize this, that does not value this, that has a very different set of values that are mostly connected to the material realm and the rational realm. So we tend to feel like the black sheep or the outsider in any group that we are in. And if we grow up in a family that is very logic-oriented, right, really driven by the mental realm and sort of that mindset of I'll see it, I'll believe it when I see it. If we grow up in that kind of family, we might even be mocked or punished for being drawn to the metaphysical side of life, the woo-woo side of life. But we will really thrive if we follow this part of ourselves. Usually this part of ourselves, that part that's drawn to the metaphysical side, that's drawn to the woo things, it's really tied in with our life path and our life purpose. And that's how we discover our unique gifts. I just taught a class for wounded healers, and I was talking about how each INFJ and INFP has what I call like a medicine bundle. Your medicine bundle might be very real tools that you use when you are doing healing work, but it also might be intangible tools, right? It's sort of your inner holistic library of knowledge that you've gathered and you've collected and you've curated over time. We are knowledge seekers, we are spiritual seekers, and every single one of us has this internal archive that we keep that helps us make sense of the universe. That plays into our draw to the woo side of life. I'm teaching a new class on this. It's called Life on the Woo Side, and I got the inspiration for this class from my last class that I taught for wounded healers. The last class we did in that, we talked about things on the woo side of life, and so many people in the chat spoke up and said, I've always been interested in this, I've always been interested in this. Is this considered woo? Is this considered woo? It's normal to me. Is it weird that it's normal to me? And I thought those questions were so interesting. So many INFJs and INFPs have these woo interests that feel very normal to us, but at the same time, we're not talking about them to other people. There's something that we keep hidden, or we keep them secret amongst our family and friends because we don't want to be laughed at, or we don't want to be not taken seriously. We don't want to be mocked or punished for it, especially if we had those early family experiences. So it tends to be something that we hide about ourselves and we don't let it out. So this new class, Life on the Woo Side, I really want to explore this kind of territory. And some people ask me like, well, is this going to be a class about conspiracy theories? I don't know if I'm into conspiracy theories. We are going to be talking about some fringe stuff, But I'm saying woo, not just including anything fringe. Woo to me really has the aspect of spirituality attached to it. It really has the aspect of soul attached to it. When you're dealing with the woo side of life, you're looking deeper. You're looking for the patterns in life, for the meaning in life, for your meaning for being here. And usually that's a very strong connection to spirit. So there's going to be a real emphasis on working with spirit and working with our spirituality, our spiritual connection to ourselves, to the universe in this new class, Life on the Woo Side. Our registration for this class is opening soon, so please make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter to get the notification for when registration is open. The link is in the comments below. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment, or you can email me, lauren@laurensapala.com, and ask me any questions about this new class. Registration is coming up soon. It's only going to be open for 5 days, so please make sure you are subscribed to my newsletter. And please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you found this video helpful. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I will see you in this new class, Life on the Woo Side. Thanks so much for watching.